So I want to start by just giving you an explanation of how digestion works. We want to just like give you an overall example of how it even works. Most people don't even realize how digestion works. So digestion starts the minute you smell food and you put food in your mouth. That's where digestion starts. Your digestion, we call it complete digestion, starts from when you start chewing the food to when you exit the food out the back door, the back end, right? That's your complete digestive system. So if there's anything not going correctly from the mouthpiece, the chewing, the swallowing, the stomach, through the end coming out the back end, if that system is not all working properly, you're going to have problem. So here's how it works. When you eat food, our stomachs, first of all, you eat the food, it goes down and travels down here into your stomach. And when you eat food, your stomach makes hydrochloric acid, short for HCl. And this helps us to acidify the food that we eat. And it helps us break down the food. Once the food is properly acidified in the stomach, and by the way, our stomach acid has to be so high and so strong. A normal acidic environment is a pH of 2.5 to 3. Battery acid in a car is 1. Okay, so just think of that, right? So your stomach acid, you want it between that 2.5 and 3. And we need a lot of stomach acid. In fact, the stomach is coated with a material that actually is designed to hold that acid in place. And when that stomach lining breaks down due to infections, due to not enough acid, that's when you get these holes in the stomach, which ulcers, right? And that's when some of the problems happen too. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off the topic. But when we eat, we create this acid. Our acid needs to be very high so it can break down the food. Then what happens is the stomach, when it digests the food, it leaves the stomach and goes into the duodenum. This is it's about a 10-inch tube right on top of the small intestine. And once the stomach puts that chyme into the duodenum, the digested food, the gallbladder then squeezes out bile to help digest the food. Bile is very alkaline. The alkaline bile is dropped down from the gallbladder into this acidic product that's from the stomach. And when the alkaline bile meets the acidic stomach, it creates this fizz and that sizzle. And that sizzle is really what helps break and bust that food apart. And it pulls all the nutrients out of the food. So the sizzle part of this equation is very important. Most people don't understand that. This is why you don't want to get your gallbladder yanked out, because your gallbladder plays a big role in alkalizing that mixture as it goes through into the intestine. And it helps pull out nutrients from your food and helps break down the food. So that sizzle is what breaks down the food and also helps the food so that it doesn't stay clumpy in the body. When food is not broken down properly in the stomach, what happens, so let's say you don't have enough stomach acid and it's low and you eat food and it's not broken down properly, then food rots and ferments. And the fermenting can create a lot of extra gas and chemicals and bad reactions that can create a lot of symptoms in the body. So that's where the problem comes in. So if you don't have enough stomach acid, if you don't have enough bile, if you don't have a gallbladder, if your bile is not creating that sizzle and there's bile that's thick and maybe it's blocking the ducts, there's a lot of things that happen right in this process of digestion. So that is what we need. We need that food to be so acidic and broken down that it allows the mixture to be introduced to the alkaline bile, which then creates this like sizzle. Then it travels down in the duodenum into the intestines, where then it's absorbed and then goes through the large intestine, and that's where you expel it out. When this isn't working, it creates a lot of digestion problems. So I'm going to go through a bunch of symptoms, but remember, it's never just one thing. So even though these are going to be really common symptoms for incomplete digestion, we always have to use a multiple faceted approach when healing the body. Okay. Because it's never just one thing, and there can be different variables of different things in regard to this. But just remember, when you have a symptom, it's your body speaking to you. And improper digestion has some common symptoms, which I'm going to go over. Okay. Now, so let's talk about the signs. What are some of the signs of incomplete digestion? Signs you are not digesting your food properly. Well, number one, this is very kind of self-explanatory, but I'm lumping these into all one, number one, because burping, bloating, constipation, heartburn, diarrhea, indigestion, pain in the stomach, acid reflux are all part of incomplete digestion. So if you have any of these symptoms, these are the most common. If any of these symptoms, for sure, there's something going on with the stomach acid, the bile, the digestion, the breaking down. There is a problem with that. And most of the time, this is due to a stomach acid or a bile issue, these, okay? So that's number one. Number two is acne or skin issues. The reason why you have acne or skin issues if you have a digestion problem is because bile, that alkaline substance, is not flowing correctly in your body. And it wants to push out these toxins via the body. It wants to push them out. And what happens is it pushes it out through the skin. So if you have a lot of acne or skin issues, it is a potential digestion issue. Number three, low blood pressure. Listen, most people think if their blood pressure is 110 over 70, like, oh, that's amazing. Listen, low pressure is not good, just like high blood pressure isn't good. So if your blood pressure is below that systolic number, the systolic number is the top number. So like 112 over, 120 over 80, right? The top number is systolic. So if you have a blood pressure that is under 112, especially if you get into the hundreds and the 90s, and it's lower than that 112, that's a really, really strong sign that you're not breaking down your food, because remember, when you break down the food, you're pulling in minerals. So when your body is not breaking down your food and pulling out the minerals are what are causing the blood to stay a little bit thinner and keep the blood pressure normal. So when you don't have minerals, when you're not absorbing minerals, it makes the blood thicker, and that can lower your blood pressure. So low blood pressure is really a sign that digestion isn't working properly because you're lacking minerals. Your body's not absorbing the minerals. And the same as the opposite is high blood pressure. So the same thing is, again, it can be high blood pressure because the most common is poor bile flow, and the toxins accumulate in the bile, and that makes the blood thick. And then the body's trying harder to push that thick blood through the system, which is causing high blood pressure. So it's the opposite of low blood pressure, which is your body's not absorbing the minerals, right? You're lacking minerals. High blood pressure is the blood's too thick, and it can be harder for your body to push that blood through. Now, there's other reasons for high blood pressure, but we have to look at digestion as a possible option. I mean, high blood pressure can also be kidney issues, but all of that also is related to digestion. So we always have to make sure that we do a multifaceted approach and take a look at everything that could possibly be happening. Number 5, if you see undigested food in your stool, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? But our stomach acid needs to be so strong that that food emulsifies and breaks down. So when you look at your poop, our stool will tell us a lot. So if you're looking at your stool and it's a funky color, or you're seeing particles of food in it, that's a really good indication that your digestion is not working properly. Number 6, cravings, especially carbs and sugar. It's because the body, again, is not absorbing nutrients very well, and it's not breaking down the nutrients. So if your body's not getting what it needs through nutrients, it's going to be out there creating cravings and wanting to get food in you because it's not breaking down your food properly. That's one reason. Now, also, you guys here in the group, right? And a lot of you have diabetes, and when your insulin and your blood sugars are high, that's also another thing that causes cravings. But most people, I'd say 90% of all people that have diabetes have digestion issues also. Okay. So again, we got to look at kind of everything as a whole, but this is one of the symptoms of poor digestion. Number 7 is mental and emotional issues. Now, of course, there are other reasons, like I said, for some of the other ones, but we have to take a look at digestion when it comes to someone who is depressed or has anxiety or even bipolar, because a lot of it's caused by lack of minerals, which are needed to send signals from your brain to the body and your body to the brain. So when you don't have these nutrients to help with this communication, the mental emotional issues are a big time result. So this is why people, when they do our program, they start to not only physically feel better, but they will also start to emotionally feel better because we get their digestion working better and their brain and their tissues and the signals are all working better. And so sometimes they're even able to get off these depression medications, which aren't fixing the underlying root problem anyway, especially if it's a digestion issue. Depression medication is not going to fix that. Minerals usually are a really good indication. If you are low in minerals, a really good indication that you have digestion issues that cause mental or emotional issues. Number 8, osteoporosis or osteopenia, because the body, again, isn't getting what it needs from food. So it pulls from the bones. It's kind of like your body's self-mining, right? If it's not going to get the minerals from your food, it's got to pull it from somewhere. So it pulls it from the bones. So the body is so smart, you guys. If it's not going to get what it needs from its food, it's going to start pulling from the tissues and pulling from the bones and pulling from other places in the body because it knows what it needs. So smart. Number 9, if you get leg or foot cramps, Charlie horses, again, we have to assume that the body can't get its nutrients. And so it pulls it from the tissues and they're not fun. Leg cramps and foot cramps are not fun. So what most people do when they get leg or foot cramps, they're like, oh, I'm just going to take a bunch of magnesium or potassium, which sometimes helps. But if you're not fixing the underlying problem and able to absorb the potassium and the magnesium, if you can't absorb it because your digestion isn't working properly, you can take all these supplements you want in the world. And if you're not absorbing it, it's not even going to matter. Again, we got to really pay attention to these signals when we have these that are happening to us. We have to figure out, okay, we have to go back and relate it. Could it be our digestion? Yep. Very well could be. Number 10, chronic fatigue. How can you have energy, right, if you're not digesting your food? And your body needs fuel. It's like gas in a car. If you put gas in your car is going to run. Gas and oil in your car, it's going to run. You put the right gas, the right oil in, it's going to run fine. If you're low on gas, you're low on oil, it's not going to run fine. It's going to wear out. It's going to start damaging the engine. If you don't have oil, the red engine light's going to come on. So if we look at a car and relate it to your body, you can look at the car as your body. The red engine light in the car is when something's going wrong. Well, a symptom in our body is like a red engine light in a car. So if you have a symptom, think of it as a red engine light. So instead of going to your doctor and like getting medication for a symptom, like step back and like, okay, what's my body here? What's it trying to teach me here? Because a symptom is something is going on. Something is breaking down the body. And the first place I always have my clients look is their digestion, your inability to absorb nutrition. Almost everybody has the inability to not absorb nutrition, especially if you have diabetes. Okay. Number 11, menstrual cramps, similar to Charlie horses, when the body isn't absorbing enough calcium at a tissue level because it's being pulled out from the body to help function in other areas, you can get more intense menstrual cramps. Another one is vertigo and dizzy spells. Again, not enough minerals for those signals to travel correctly, so they can result in those dizzy situations. My mom had vertigo, right? My mom had vertigo for many, many, many years. And vertigo can be caused not just from digestion, but it can be caused from a subluxation in your neck and your spine. So you got to take a look at different things. But my mom's vertigo, I know one of the symptoms of vertigo for her was she didn't have a gallbladder. My mom has had so many problems since she had her gallbladder removed. And you got to take a look at that, because if you don't have a gallbladder, you're not getting enough bile to help emulsify and neutralize that acid in the stomach, right? So there's just so much more to it. And doctors are just so fast about taking your gallbladder out, and they tell you don't need it. I'm going to tell you something. You need your gallbladder. And it's better to try to preserve your gallbladder and try to break down stones if you have stones versus getting it yanked out, because you have more problems once it's yanked out. Okay. All right. Number 13 is early menopause. So it's all about the reproductive cycle, right? So it takes a lot to create a baby. Our bodies are so smart. It takes so much to create a baby. And if your body doesn't have enough minerals and things like that, even like irregular periods, right? Because it takes so much to create a baby. If your body doesn't have enough minerals, it will shut things down and your periods will become irregular. So when you don't have enough nutrients, your body's like, I don't have enough nutrients to make a baby. I don't have enough minerals. So I'm going to just like make it impossible to have a baby right now, or make it possible to fertilize the egg. There's so many instances where women will come and do my program and they can't get pregnant. And once we fix their digestion, once we get them on a really good diet, they balance their hormones out, all of a sudden they get their periods back or they get pregnant. It's crazy. So it's this innate intelligence of the body and Mother Nature that is so smart. It's incredible. The body is incredible, and it knows how to fix itself if we provide it with the right environment. Instead, what we do is we mess it up by adding in medications, doing the wrong things, eating the wrong foods, keep adding toxins in, and our body gets very confused and it starts to break down. So we have to take a better approach and give our body what it needs and really take care of ourselves. Okay. Number 15, gallstones. So like I said before, if you start to get gallstones, all that means is that your bile isn't flowing properly. So that bile stays in the gallbladder and continues to concentrate into stones. And gallstones hurt. My husband had a gallbladder attack a couple of weeks ago. Pretty sure he didn't go in, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And so now what I'm doing is I have him on a program that is helping him break down these stones and thin out his bile, because when you have stones, it's because your bile is getting thick. And there's many reasons why that happens. But if you have gallstones, it definitely is a sign that you have some bile flow issues. And trust me, you don't want gallstones. Seasonal allergies is number 16. I say this all the time, that when you have allergies, it's because anytime you eat food, anytime you breathe air, you're breathing in bacteria all the time, right? So if your stomach acid isn't strong enough and you don't have the right digestion, these microbes get messed up and these bacteria get in and you have a reaction to them, which is what allergies basically are. So anytime you have allergies, it's an indication that you don't have a strong enough digestion. Your stomach acid is your first line of defense. Your stomach acid should be so strong that it kills off anything that comes in. Anything that comes in on a food comes in when you breathe, when you accidentally put something in your mouth that you're not supposed to, or you lick your hands when you have a virus, whatever, right? Your stomach acid is your first line of defense. And if you don't have enough of that in your stomach, enough acid to kill that off, these little bacteria and invaders come in there and they start making a home in your gut, and that's a huge problem. Number 17 is asthma. So they're kind of related. Both of these tend to show that somebody's autonomic nervous system is also stuck and their parasympathetic nervous system is stuck in this state. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest state. So sometimes when digestion isn't working properly, the body will push itself into a parasympathetic rest and digest state. And it's hard to get into a sympathetic state when it's leaning more toward the parasympathetic. So once you get into that parasympathetic state, it slows down your digestion. So one thing I should just actually do a whole class just on this, but your parasympathetic system is what you need to rest and digest, right? This is why when you're really stressed out and you are in that fight or flight mode and your sympathetic nervous system is activated, a lot of people have a hard time digesting food because that can also be a problem. You need a balance of both. So when you're in fight or flight, your body's not wanting to digest food because it's wanting to take care of the emergency, right? So you need to be calm when you are eating, and you need to give your body time to digest the food and things like that, right? So this is why I always say when you're eating, you should always eat in a place where you can concentrate, where you can be relaxed, where you're not watching TV, you're not checking your phone, you're not, anxious, where you can just chew your food and just be calm and let your body do its thing. Because you need to be in that parasympathetic state in order for proper digestion. But if your digestion is not working due to these other things I'm sharing with you tonight, your bile, your stomach acid, you're going to still have issues anyway. So it's again, we have to take a look at it as a whole. Okay. Number 18 is bad breath. Now, there are numerous causes of bad breath, but what I have learned, the main one for bad breath that relates to digestion is because if your digestion isn't working properly, your food rots and ferments because it's not acidified enough. And then the gut can't break it down correctly. So it rots and ferments and creates all this thick toxic buildup that backs up. And then it's pulled out into the breath. So yeah, when your intestines have all of that toxic, fermented, rotting food because it's not broken down correctly, it can definitely come up in the form of bad breath. Number 19, weight gain. When food is not being broken down, not only do we not get the nutrients out of the food, but it doesn't digest, and then the body has to try to get rid of the chunk somewhere, rid of the food, and so it pushes it into the fat cells. And so many toxins are in the body. And by the way, you guys, those toxins in the body, one of the purposes of the bile is to these toxins, when they go through the system, they go through and it's supposed to be going into the bile so that when you poop out, you're pooping out those toxins. And the bile is kind of a storage tank for that. But what happens when you have incomplete digestion is these toxins have to go somewhere. And if you don't have enough bile, or your bile's not working properly, your stomach acid isn't working properly, your body will take those toxins because it's trying to just figure out what to do with them, because if it's not working right, it's going to store it in the fat cells. So your fat cells just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you get more toxic and more toxic. And then they expand, and then pretty soon our pants get tight, and then we get mad. So yeah, that's not good. And the last one is hair loss. And one of the main reasons for hair loss, again, is a nutrient deficiency. So if you're not able to break down protein, hair is a protein, and you're not able to break down protein in your gut because your acid isn't strong enough, then you're not going to be able to assimilate the minerals and the proteins that you need. So number one reason for hair loss is definitely nutrient deficiency. So again, if the gut is out of balance, you will have other issues. Last week, I did a class on lectins. And so I wanted to put this slide in here because I want you guys to understand that lectins aren't a problem unless you have a gut imbalance. Lectins can be very beneficial for us, but not when our digestion is not working properly. So when you ever hear somebody say, oh, you should never eat lectins, or you should be on certain foods, well, no, lectins are only going to be a problem if you have inflammation in the gut, your digestion isn't working properly, and you have leaky gut or an autoimmune condition because of digestion. By the way, leaky gut is because of not enough stomach acid. When you have leaky gut, here's what happens with leaky gut. The lining of your stomach is made so strong that it's holding this acid in it. When your stomach acid gets low, it's very bad. And that's when invaders, bacteria, infections, viruses come into the body. And those bacteria, they basically set up camp in your gut, and they penetrate the lining. And that's why sometimes you will have an ulcer, because you're not digesting your food, and these bacteria in there, and they're trying to get out. And so they're puncturing holes in your stomach lining. And then they go into the intestines, where they further are causing issues in your intestines because they're so toxic and it's not broken down. And then you comes out the back end, and you have particles in your undigested food. So if you just can pay attention to some of these things, you can learn that, okay, well, if I'm having any of these things, I potentially might need to work on my digestion a little bit and work on the complete system. And I wanted to tell you that I can show you how to do this, but not in 45 minutes. If you go to theacademycamp.com and get registered, we have a full day where we're going to cover so much. I have a whole section on cholesterol. I have a whole section on how you can go to your medical doctor and you can talk to them about not putting you on a statin. I'm going to teach you, because I can guarantee that every single one of you in here have high cholesterol based on their numbers, because the ranges for cholesterol are insane. They're insane. They lowered the ranges of your total cholesterol so that they could put you on a statin. So you're going to always be told you need a statin because their cholesterol ranges are wrong. So I'm going to talk with you. I'm going to teach you that at camp. I'm going to teach that to you at camp. And so when you learn that, you will be able to go back to your doctor and have a very intelligent conversation with your MD and say, well, listen, This is what I know. So can you tell me why I need a statin if blah, 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 blah. I'm going to teach you that. It's the most empowering and the most amazing thing to learn so that you don't have to be a victim of being put on a statin when you don't need to be put on a statin. Another thing is we're going to talk about digestion. We're going to talk about why in the world, when you go to a doctor and you have heartburn, they put you on an antacid. Heartburn is 100% because you don't have enough acid. And heartburn is the easiest thing to fix. And doctors don't know how to fix it. It's the easiest thing. So what they want to do is they want to put you on an antacid, which decreases the stomach acid even more. That makes your gut more vulnerable to have viruses and bacteria get in your gut, infections and things like that. Being on antacids is the worst thing for your digestion because you're now inviting all these invaders and bacteria to come into your body, and they're not going to be killed off. Because again, you need strong and a lot of acid in your stomach as your first line of defense. And then you're being told to go on an antacid, which then is decreasing. That's why so many people get SIBO and leaky gut and ulcers and H. pylori and all of these diseases that the medical doctors have no idea why. So we're going to talk a lot about that. I'm going to go into detail about those kind of things at camp. Also, I just wanted to remind you guys, I like to show this graphic too, because in this group, there's hundreds of classes. And I get probably every few days, I get emails from you guys saying, where can I find this class? Where can I find this class? So if you go up to the tab up here on top of the group where it says media, you click on media, then you go to videos, you're going to see a whole bunch of my classes. I do classes every Wednesday. And so you just have to dig through there and you'll be able to find those classes here. So this class tonight will be automatically put into this media videos tab. So if you click on it, you'll be able to rewatch the replay. So those of you who are watching the replay, awesome. I hope you guys learned a lot tonight with this. But I just want to say that remember, your body speaks to you all the time. Start paying attention. Every time you have a symptom, here's what I want you to practice. Every time you have a symptom, I want you to think of it as a red engine light in your car. When you're driving your car and your red engine light comes on, what do? You don't ignore it. I mean, you might ignore it for an hour or two, but you don't ignore a red engine light. You are like, no, I'm going to go home and research it or take it to my mechanic. I'm going to figure it out. Okay. Symptom is the same thing. When you have a symptom in your body, think of it as a red engine light and start researching and start watching my videos. Come to camp. I am so good at being able to identify red engine lights. I'm telling you what, you have a red engine light come on, you have a symptom, I can help you kind of navigate through some options for you and figure out what might be going on. Because again, we look at it from a holistic perspective. I'm actually thankful I'm not a doctor, because if I was a doctor, I would look at your symptom and then just be like, oh, let's see what medication. Let's see, page 30 for heartburn. Oh, okay, there you go. Parlisec. Oh, there you go. No, that is never going to help you, right? So what we do is we look at your symptom and we look at your body as a whole, and we break things apart, because it's never just one thing. There can be numerous things going on at the same time that need to be addressed and fixed. So camp is going to be your first opportunity to kind of start to figure this out. So I'm inviting you to camp. You're all here. I do want to introduce you to somebody else that I just want you guys to be inspired. You know, a lot of these classes I do are to teach you, but it's also, I want you to be inspired. I want you to realize that there is hope, because you don't hear this from your medical doctors. When you go to your medical doctors, all you hear is that you have diabetes, you're never going to get rid of it. You're just going to get worse, and here's your medications. Or if you're overweight, I just had a client the other day who said, you know what, my doctor, I interviewed her. You guys will see that interview. She's like, my doctor told me I would never lose weight because of my condition. How disempowering is that? It was Cheryl. The interview I posted earlier, I think it was yesterday. And her doctor told her because of a diagnosis she got, she would never lose weight. Well, he was wrong. She's down 21 pounds. She feels amazing. And all I'm saying is when I do these classes, I always want to also be here, be a support to you, and be here as a person that believes in you, that believes that you can do something other than allopathic treatments. Now, sometimes, I'm not saying they're not all allopathic treatments, not all medications are bad all the time. But what I'm saying is most of the time you are given these diagnoses and the doctors don't know how to treat it any other way other than medications. And medications they never heal. Medications only treat. And I want to bring on Val because Val is a perfect example of being told that she would never get off her medications. And she was on 18, by the way. And Val is off all of her medications. And Val was a diabetic. And I want to just inspire all of you by talking to Val. Hi, Val. Are you ready to inspire these ladies tonight?
I am.
Girl,
Yes. Yes,
you
yes.
are amazing. I just want you to share with the girls about your, you know, your experience. I mean, you were told by your medical doctors that you were not going to get better.
Right.
Right? And wasn't that when they told you that, weren't you just like, how did you feel? Like, how did that make you feel being told that you had to stay on these 18 medications, you weren't going to get better, and basically you're doomed?
Well, first of all, it was 21 medications I was on, and I came off of 18 of them. Yes. And
Wow.
so just so excited. But when they had originally told me that no, you'll be on these for the rest of your life and all of that, I felt a little bit discouraged. But then I in walked my sister-in-law, and she had lost a lot of weight, and she told me about the academy. And so then I met you.
Yeah,
And
but how were you like, let's go to that place. Let's go back when you were on 21 medications. You were 60 pounds heavier. You were
yes,
you were what was going through? Were you just like didn't know where to start, didn't know what to do? Where was your head at? How were you feeling?
I
And
was feeling terrible,
Mhm.
just feeling sick all the time. It was either the joints were hurting, the stomach was hurting. It was just always something hurting. And so when I would wake up in the morning, I would have something for breakfast, and then I would have to go back to bed and lay down for the food to digest. And it just became a cycle. And then I'd go from one medication to the next. And so my days were just not fun days.
Yeah.
And it was just medicine and rest, medicine and rest. And then another
Were you pretty much bedridden?
get up and go and run some errands or something like that. But then, it was come back home and take another medication, and then that would either make me sleepy or just,
Yeah,
it
the
just
side
was
effects of the
a,
medication were also bad, right?
yes, yes. So it was just like a cycle of not feeling good. And every time I would go to the doctor every 3 months, it would, my A1C would still be high. They give me more medications, either want to up the insulin, or it just was not a good situation to be in. And I was just overweight. I felt sluggish all the time and just
Yeah,
didn't
your
feel good.
A1C was 9, wasn't it, when you started?
I think it was either well, when I started out, it was 13 as diabetic. And
Yeah.
so maybe by the time I got to you, it might have been 9, but and so they just continued to give me different insulins and just changing up, because I was on 3 different insulins,
Oh,
as
girl.
well as the what's the drug? I've been off of it so
Metformin.
long.
I know
Yes, the
you've been off
metformin.
your medications for long, you kind of forget what they even were.
I've been off of them for 2.5
Yeah,
years.
and that's the other
So
thing I want to talk about. It's like so doctors are always telling my clients, and I can say this because I hear it every day. my doctors are always telling my clients, once you have diabetes, always diabetes. It's
You're
hereditary
always diabetic.
and you're never gonna reverse it. You're never gonna get rid of it. Well, it's just
Yes.
a blatant not true, because you've reversed your diabetes. You've been under 5.7, which is the non-diabetic range. 5.6 low is non-diabetic range. You've been under that 5.6 for over 2 years. You've reversed your
Yes, I've
diabetes.
been. Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
okay. So so you reversed it. So how can they tell you that you can't reverse it? You can.
I actually had a nurse practitioner. She has just been amazed at the difference, and she would always ask me when I came in, so tell me about what the plan that you were on, because she would always, as I was coming off of the medications and you were titrating me off of them, just I didn't just come off of them all at one time. We worked together to come off, and I was keeping my doctor informed. But when she realized that I was off of so many, she just she didn't like it after all, even though the results that she saw. And so I don't know if that was a negative thing for her being, my primary care provider, but I was just elated and so excited to be able to come off of those medications and not have side effects anymore.
Well, girl, I mean, I gotta show this graphic because it still blows my mind, and I've seen it a cajillion times. But look at that before picture. You were 60 pounds heavier, 64
Yes.
inches bigger. You're off
Yes.
18 meds. Your A1C now is 4.3. You're down 12 sizes. That is incredible. Look at this.
Yes. 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 And still going strong.
I mean, I just, girl, I'm in awe of you. It's so amazing. And the thing I want to just share with the women in this group is that I want them to know that it's possible.
It is definitely possible.
Because they're being told
And
it's not. And
it is
coming from me,
definitely
because I'm
possible.
I'm the one that, I'm the holistic nutritionist, I'm the holistic care practitioner. Sometimes people think, oh, of course you're going to say that, but I want them to hear it from you. You were the person that had the
Yes.
diabetes, that was suffering, that was on 18 medications, and you're diabetes free, off your
Yes.
18 medications, down 60 pounds. I mean, you're a whole different person.
Whole different person, and I feel amazing, and it's like my life has been renewed. I've been given, just say, a new chance to get it right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm,
And you're paying it forward now too, because you're now a coach,
yes,
which is amazing.
yes,
And I want the
yes,
girls to know that too, because we have a camp coming up, which you are a part of that, and you're a coach now for this program. And
yes,
the ladies have to know that, because they're going to be able to meet you and experience
yes.
your amazing energy. So let's talk about camp coming up. We have camp coming up, 2 camps coming up here in a couple weeks. Tell the ladies and give them some encouragement on why it would be really advantageous for them to come to camp.
Well, actually, if you want to change your life and really find out what's going on with yourself, with your body, then coming to the DLCA, the Academy Camp, would be the thing to do, because the way that Terry runs the program, it allows you to find out what's going on with you personally. It becomes a personal journey for each woman, even though we form a sisterhood over in the group. It just becomes an amazing journey to be able to go through it with your sisters, as what you find once you're coming through. You learn so much. It's just a wealth of information, and you learn about living differently, and things that you can have and things that your body doesn't want you to put in it. And so Terry takes very detailed approach at getting that information over to you and ensuring that it sticks. You learn it and you begin living it. And so it is the most incredible thing that has happened in my life. I never thought that I could be this person. I don't think I was ever this size, a size 10 when when I was growing up. I don't know. I think I skipped over the size 10. But implementing the things that Terry suggested, it has given me a new life. And if you want to realize your potential in terms of reversing some things that may be going on with your body, any type of inflammation, any issues, Terry gets to the bottom of it. She's like,
Yeah, I tell women this all the time. I know my academy is called the Diabetes and Weight Loss Lifestyle Coaching Academy, but I always tell people all the time, any woman who has an imbalance, every woman should do it, even just to be proactive, because why not learn this stuff before your body even breaks down? Like I shared, I got cancer. I thought I was doing everything right and I got cancer. Doesn't mean that everybody here is going to get cancer or get a disease if they're doing things right, but it's just supposed to show you that if you learn ahead of time kind of what is causing disease, and it can be anything, I just think everybody should do I'm a little biased, but I think everybody should do it. And what happens is most people end up doing it when they get the chronic diagnosis, right?
Right.
And but
yes,
you're living proof that it works for sure.
Sooner the better. The sooner the better, because you can begin enjoying your new life. Because I'm still over in the midst of finding me. It's like I'm like, wow, yeah. So I think that it would just be a really great decision on your part if you want to begin to get to the root of whatever is going on with you personally and begin that journey of healing yourself.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Val. I appreciate you saying that. And thank you for sharing, just your amazing, incredible 2.5-year journey.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It is amazing.
Yes.
And I know that, a lot of the ladies, in the academy learn from you and appreciate you, and I appreciate you. And you're just a wonderful example of what's possible for us when we make a decision to do the hard work. I mean, I say this all the time too. I sound like a broken record, but people come to me and say, "Oh, it's just too hard. It's too hard. Your program's going to be too hard." I'm like, "Well, it's harder being on 18 medications, 60 pounds overweight, injecting insulin into your arm and taking medications that cause side effects. That's hard.
Yes.
Doing the work and learning it to become a lifestyle. Yeah, I have to disagree. I don't think it's harder.
No,
I think it's harder being sick.
The benefits that that are produced by doing the work. Yeah. It's like give a gift to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Val, thank you. You're amazing. So much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.